Hi, in this Think Central video, I'm going to show you how to assign a variety of reading and math activities for your students to do. These would be great if you have centers set up in your room. Maybe you have access to a computer lab or a laptop cart, or perhaps you're going to encourage your students to use some of these activities at home. To assign these, you hover over the Assignments tab, and inside the Assignments tab, you can either assign tests or other assignments. And this video is going to focus on the other assignments. In another video, I'll show you how to do the different assessments. So I'm going to go over Assignments, and then I'm going to go to Other Assignment. Inside the Other Assignment tab, there's a couple different ways that you can assign it. You can search for different resources, or you can actually, if it's a math one, go to the e-planner and find those resources and assign them from there. The first one that I'm going to do is a reading one. And I'm going to pretend that I have a first grade student and I want to assign them some phonics and comprehension activities that they can do that goes along with the story that we've been working on. I'm not quite sure of the name of the assignment that I'm going to give, so I'm going to go search for the resource first, and then I'll come back and put the name in. So down below where it says Add and then select a resource type, I'm going to search for a searchable resource. That just means it's somewhere inside that Think Central system. I'll press the Go, and then they give me some filtering options here. I'm going to focus on reading. I'm going to pretend that it's a first grade student. And then I could look at all of the resources, but if I know that I only want English resources, before I go into this drop down, I can come below and filter out for just the English resources. And when I wait for it to refresh, then only the English ones will be available. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the student's ebook. And inside the ebook connected to each story are some skill activities based on the phonics and then the comprehension skill that we're working on for each story. So I'm going to assign the ebook for that student, and then I'm going to find the specific story that I want them to work on. Now there's some activities inside of here that don't really work great as a center activity. They might be more printable activities or something that I would work through in a small group. But they do have those here if you wanted to look at them. But what I'm looking for is more the activity that goes with each story. So here's the first story in our series, What is a Pal? And then there's Friends Forever. And if I continue working through here, I can see several different stories. And what I want to do is I want to take a look at what I'm assigning them. So before I check mark to assign it, I can click on the link that actually lets me go into that ebook story. And I don't necessarily need them to read the story. Perhaps we did that as a class already. And I'm looking for when they go to their reading centers or their activities that they're going to go further and start working on some of the skills. And there's this nice button right up at the top that's called Destination Reading. And it connects to the skill that goes with this story. Now don't forget though, you could always have the students, if maybe they missed the story, they were absent, or they want to review it, they could turn the page and they could start reading this story, and the story will actually read to them if they press on the speaker. But what I really want my students to do is to go into the ebook skills in the destination reading. So I want them to go into this area. And for this specific story, they have a phonics activity that is working on finding the short A sound. And then they have a comprehension skill. One thing that it does is it only shows the title of the story, but it doesn't tell me what that comprehension skill is. So let me quick show you a good way to preview this. If you want to see what the phonics activity is going to be, you can click. It will load up.
This is the letter A. A makes the sound this snail likes shells that make the sound click each shell to hear its sound.
So in that activity, they have to find the correct shell that has that short A sound. Now in the comprehension skill, they give them a new story each time.
This story is about a dinosaur named Triceratops. You can learn new information about Triceratops in this story.
What's nice is inside these stories, they do have the little green button so the student can have that text support to go along with it. Now, I will tell you that these specific stories are only for the journey, so it's only kindergarten through second grade. And as you fast forward through it, They have little light bulbs here that they can click on. They can listen to it. If they get all the way to the end of the story, I'm just going to fast forward so that you can see. If they get all the way through to the end of the story, there's going to be a comprehension activity for them. So it's important that you show the students that when they get to the very end, that there's no longer another page to turn. They have to come down to the bottom and there's a page that will turn to the activity.
The story, Meet the Triceratops, was about a dinosaur.
So this one's focusing on main idea and details of the story, and they have an activity to work through for that. So if you're wanting to assign this to the students and you've looked and you've decided, okay, this is quality activity, this is what I want to assign, then you check mark the one that you're going to assign for them. Once you have that check mark, you choose Assign, and then you have to give it some type of name. So you could either give it the title of the story, What is a PAL, and then put skills behind it. You could call it Lesson 1 or Story 1, but kind of become consistent so that your students are familiar with what it is that they're looking for. So I'm going to call this one, What is a PAL Skills? So when my students go to the centers, I can say, okay, today you're working on what is a PAL skills. If that's too hard, maybe you could say, I want you to go to Story 1 skills or Lesson 1 skills. You can type specific instructions for the students if you'd like them to see instructions. I'm just going to leave the word do in there. I've already searched for my specific assignment, so I have that in there. And now I have to choose my class. So I'm going to select my class and let it refresh. I'll select which subject this belongs in. And then it shows me all of my students. Now I could pick and choose specific students by clicking one. On a Mac computer, I hold down the Command key, so I could do just specific students that get that activity. Or I could choose Add All. Now if it's on a Windows PC computer, you need to use the Control key. And the Control key will allow you to pick and choose which students, and then you would add just those students. I want all of my students, so I'm going to select Add All. And then it only gives them 1 week to have this complete. So my suggestion is if you want them to have more than just 1 week, is to change that due date. If you just want them to have this accessible throughout the whole school year, then choose a date in the summer that you're comfortable with so that they can have it accessible to them. Now when it comes to assessments and tests, it might be more important to select the times available. If it's something just a center activity, if you're okay with them doing it at home, you could always leave it available here, or you could select the specific time of the day that you want them to be able to go to it. In this one, I'm going to keep it at any time of the day. I'll select Save, and they tell me I'm ready to create an assignment, and I'll press Yes to continue making that assignment. Let me show you another example. I'll go back up to my Assignments tab and I'm going to choose another assignment. This time I'm going to choose an assignment from my 3rd through 6th grade. They don't have the e-book with the destination reading like the kindergarten through 2nd grade do. So I'll go back into my reading. I'll choose 3rd grade for this example. Again, I can select English if I only want to see my English resources. And inside here, what I'm looking for are those Storytown leveled readers, and it's called Storytown Readers Collection. And then I'll select Find. Now inside here, I can go through and determine, okay, which of these would I like to look at? So here's Lesson 3, Green Guide Dog School. I could take a look at that. When I click on it, it will open up. These open as a PDF. You can also download these if you ever wanted to. You can go through each of the pages. And down below in the toolbar, there's even an option right here with the little Adobe symbol. And if you click on that, that gives you a few more tools across the top. So that's an important one to maybe show your students once they get onto the computer that they can click. They can make some of these windows a little bit bigger. They could click over here on the little page symbol to see the different pages within this book so that they could go forward. If they wanted to skip right to the very first page, they could select that. When they click on the little speaker, it will read it to them.
Taking the lead.
You may have a little drop down that says that you have to allow it to read to them, so you might need to do that for your computer or show the students how to do that. It would show up here on the yellow at the top. Mine is already set to play it. And then there's just a few more options. If this is just too large for your students, you can even click the button that allows you to fit it to one full page, and they could read it like this, or you could go back to the full screen view. So let's say this is the one that you want to assign for the students. So I'm going to go and select it by check marking it. I'll select assign, and then I need to choose some type of assignment name. So I think I'll call this one Guide Dog School Story. So they know that this is just a story, not really an activity. I'll select my class and let it refresh. I'll choose reading. And this one I'll select all of my students. I'm going to change that date to the summer because I don't mind when they go through this one. And I'm okay with the time, so I'll press save and then yes. Now I'm going to move into some math ones. And I could do math the exact same way. I could choose other assignment. I could go through and select all of these resources this way and search through them, but I want to show you what I feel like is a little bit easier. I like to assign my math by going into the resources. And inside the resources, I'm going to filter out my math. And kindergarten through 6th grade are very similar in the options, so I'm just going to jump into 3rd grade and filter out just my English. And in kindergarten through 6th grade, each grade level has an e-planner. And I really like using the e-planner when I want to view and assign because it gives me exactly what I need for every lesson. So if I'm working in Chapter 8, Understanding Fractions, I can go into the e-planner for Chapter 8, and it shows me for every single lesson different things that I could either print, view, or assign. And so in this digital path area, these are things that the students can work on. Now, in a previous video, I mentioned that we do have Sort of Success Math, but that takes some setting up. We do not have rights to Destination Math. And in most of the activities, there's an animated math model that you can assign, iTools that you can assign, and then in some, they even have this Mega Math that you can assign. And there's some additional things that you may not assign to the students, like their textbook, some video podcasts for you as a teacher. And then these printable resources are great to view and print, but they wouldn't be maybe something that you would assign to the student to do on the computer. So let's say that I want to assign this animated math model. I can click on it and I can view it to make sure it's what I want. I talked in a previous video how this is using the gradual release of instruction. It first teaches them how to do the math or learn the math, then they do the math, and then they have some independent practice, and then they have a quiz. So if this is what I want the students to be able to do at the computer, I can close that and I can assign it. Now my e-planner is missing back behind that window. So you have to move that window down and click back there, and I'm ready to assign it. I click, I select assign, and now my window looks a lot like it did for the other reading ones. Be careful, sometimes that window will be back behind and you won't notice it, and you have to click back there to see that they're ready for you to assign it. So again, coming up with a nice basic assignment name for them to know. So every time they do those animated math models, I think I want them to know that it's a math model. And I'm going to go back and look. That was lesson 8.1. So I think what I'll do is I'll type 8.1 math model. You could name it several different things. You could call it equal parts math model, 8.1 equal parts, something that you would be able to tell the students. I'll keep the instructions the same. I've already selected my resource. So now I'm ready to select my class, my subject, and I'm going to add this to all of the students as an assignment. I don't mind if they work on this throughout the school year, so I'm going to put that in June 30th, and then I'll save it. I'll show you one more that you can do using the e-planner. That e-planner is still sitting back behind there, and maybe this time I'm going to do Mega Math for 8.2. So I'll select the Mega Math, and there's two levels. There's level R and level S. Maybe you'll have even more than that. So what is smart as a teacher to do is go in there and see what does level R make the students do versus level S. Perhaps level R is going to be too easy for some students, and level S is going to be too hard for some students. So when you select to assign it, you could pick and choose who gets level R and then who gets level S. So let's say that I've decided there's a group of students that I want to do the level R. I'll select assign. This is 8.2, so I'm going to put 8.2 M M. That will be my mega math. Or I could type out mega math. And this one is level R, and I don't want all of my students to do this, so I'm going to select my class, and let's choose math. And I'm going to say that I want student A. I'm going to hold down my command key on a Mac or a control key, and I'm going to select student D, and I'm going to add just those two students to level R. I'll select my date. Again, I don't mind if they do it throughout the year, and I'll save it. And then I could go in and I could assign my Mega Math level S, and they can have it as 8.2 Mega Math also. I can keep the same name so one student doesn't know that they're doing something a lot different than another student. And I'll select my class again. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I don't mind if every student has access to level S, the harder one. I will allow that A student and that D student, once they pass level R, to go ahead and do level S, but I want them to have to start on level R. So in this one, I might have to actually go up and put something different so that we know that that's the level S. I'll put in the date. I'm okay with it going into the summertime, and then I'll save it. So I've done a lot of assigning, and I've assigned a lot of different grade levels. Yours would probably be based on a specific grade level. If you were wanting to assign a specific student in your class some levels higher or lower than your grade, remember that you have to go into the account settings and select the different grades that you want access to. What I'll show you next is how you can view all of the assignments that you've given to the students. Inside the assignment list area, you can get to this by going into Assignments, Manage, and List. And when you select that, that will show you the list area. But what's tricky is it doesn't show you all of the assignments, and I just made a lot of assignments. The reason why is it's only finding assignments that were selected to be due from today's date until 1 week later. What I want to do is change that. I want to see all of them from that date to June 30th when I selected most of them. Now I'll select Find, and I can see all of them that I currently have. And I had a few reading tests already in there that are showing. And what's nice is I can go edit the assignment. Maybe I want to choose different students to have it. I can delete it, I can copy it, or I can view the progress. Now on tests, the progress will actually give you feedback as to how the students have done. When it's just an assignment or an activity, it just shows you progress as to have they started it and have they completed it. It's not going to show you did they get right or wrong so many answers. The assessments do that, but not just the regular assignment activities. So next what I would like to show you is what would it look like for a student. So as a teacher, if you're wanting to log in as a student, you could always go back to your classes and students and manage your class, click to select your class roster, and get one of your students' login information. And I'm going to jump over and log out so that you can see what it would look like for your students. On your student computers, it's important that you set up the state, the district, and the school. It's always smart to bookmark it also, like I showed in the first video for Think Central. Checkmark to remember the school, and then you have to actually log in one time to make it remember all of those things. If a student tries to log in and it's not working, check to make sure that they didn't accidentally choose a different state or district or a school. And then once that student is ready to log in, they can type in their username. Their password is the same. Check out my other video on how to set up the student accounts, and then they can log in. Oops, I've got one of those wrong. Let me try again. Now that I've logged in, where I go to find my assignments as a student is the Things to Do list. When you click the Things to Do, it's going to list everything. Here's the tricky thing is how are you going to communicate to your students on what they need to work on? You might choose to put up a sticky note near the computers or a poster that says reading, another poster that says math, and laminate it, and on a marker write what skill or what it is that they're working on. So it's nice to have kind of some basic naming conventions for each of these for them to get used to. It's also a very important step to model these for the students perhaps using your LCD machine before they ever attempt to do a mega math for the first time or do an animated math model for the first time or one of their leveled readers. Another thing that I've seen some students accidentally do is before they even start the lesson, they see this done button and they click it and they say that it's done. Well, I haven't even started 8.2, but when I press done, it goes away. It actually goes into your old assignments and you can still get to it and do it from there. So that's a little tricky. I'm going to go back to my things to do. Just make sure you teach your students when they're ready to start one, they actually have to click on the link. And then they click on the actual resource, and then it will load up that resource. And they work through that resource. It opens in a separate window, so you'll also need a model to close that window. And then they can go back, and when they're done with it, they press done. When you're working with the students, modeling is the key to make that center work successfully the first time. What's also nice is that when they're done with their assignments, they have their library available to them. And in the library, in another video, I showed you how you could allow them to have all of these different resources that they could go into. So if they have a couple extra minutes, maybe they're going to go and check out the e-glossary or maybe some real-world videos. Or they can come down and select their reading if they're working on reading, and they could go into some other activities inside reading that you didn't have to assign. They're just always in their library for them. When a student logs out, what's convenient is that it is ready for the next student. So in this activity, what I wanted you to learn was how to assign activities to students. Remember that I have other videos that teach you the troubleshooting, videos that teach you how to turn off the pop-up blockers on your student computers. I also have a video on setting up your class and assignments and getting the roster printed out. So check out some of the other videos on www.ops.org/TechHub. Thank you and have a great day.